Hello, and good day. Welcome to our class today. Today's topic is regulations and legislations. It is important to know the impact of our activities with regards to any local or international regulations and legislations. We need to be sure that our activities follow certain requirements set by local authority and other governing bodies. Let us start. This slide will list out regulations that has been enforced in Malaysia. The first one, Guidelines on Storage of Hazardous Chemicals, a guide for safe warehousing of packaged hazardous chemicals. These guidelines propose a safer way to establish safe storage and warehousing of chemicals, whether already existing or in the planning stage. A proper storage of chemicals can contribute to the safety and health of employees, and also the environment. The second one is Occupational Safety and Health, Classification, Labeling, and Safety Data Sheet of Hazardous Chemicals, Regulations 2013. These regulations should apply to chemicals supplied for use at a place of work. Next, Control of Industrial Major Accident Hazards, SIMA, Regulations 1984. The objective of this regulation is to prevent major accident hazards. It was also developed to limit damage from the accident towards human, properties and environment. Fire Services Act 1988 revolves around function and other aspect related to Fire and Rescue Department of Malaysia. It will guide on how to manage fire hazard in any area. Uniform Building Bylaws 1984 is enforced by local authority of Malaysia. This regulation will guide you on specification of lighting, aeration, structure of building, construction needs and many more. We will highlight a few regulations related to explosive from other countries. The Explosives Regulations 2014 is enforced in United Kingdom. The regulation consolidated and therefore revoked a number of explosives regulations. It has brought together the requirements of health and safety-related explosives legislation into a framework based around common topics such as authorization, safety, security and placing on the market. As a result of the consolidation, the approved Code of Practice to the Manufacture and Storage of Explosives Regulations 2005 L139 was being withdrawn. Guidance relating to the security of explosives, HSE Circular 1/2005, and guidance on the placing of civil-use explosives on the market, L66 was also withdrawn. The Explosives Act 1936 and Explosives Regulations 2011 regulate the manufacture, carriage, storage, import and purchase of explosives. The regulation is enforced in South Australia. Now, we will highlight two regulations related to fire that has been enforced at USA and United Kingdom. USA Federal Fire Prevention and Control Act of 1974 is an act developed to reduce losses of life and property through better fire prevention and control. It is also to supplement other programs of research, training, and education, and to encourage new and improved programs and activities. The Act established the National Fire Prevention and Control Administration, National Academy for Fire Prevention and Control, and National Fire Data Center. The regulatory reform, Fire Safety Order 2005, covers general fire safety in England and Wales. In Scotland, requirements on general fire safety are covered in Part 3 of the Fire, Scotland Act 2005, supported by the Fire Safety, Scotland Regulations 2006. In the majority of premises, local fire and rescue authorities are responsible for enforcing this fire safety legislation. It covers general fire precautions and other fire safety duties that are needed to protect relevant persons in case of fire in and around most premises. The order requires fire precautions to be put in place where necessary, and to the extent that it is reasonable and practicable in the circumstances of the case. Responsibility for complying with the fire safety order rests with the responsible person. Now, I will introduce to you an organization called NFPA. NFPA is a global non-profit organization, established in 1896, devoted to eliminating death, injury, property and economic loss due to fire, electrical and related hazards. It delivers information and knowledge through more than 300 consensus codes and standards, research, training, education, outreach and advocacy, and by partnering with others who share same interest. National Fire Protection Agency memberships totals more than 60,000 individuals around the world. NFPA is widely known as a codes and standards organization. That's the backbone of what they do, and it always will be. Their mission is to provide us with the information and knowledge we need to do our job well in today's ever-changing environment. NFPA 300 codes and standards are designed to minimize the risk and effects of fire by establishing criteria for building, processing, design, service, and installation around the world. The more than 250 technical committees, comprised of approximately 9,000 volunteers, review public inputs and vote on the revisions, in a process that is accredited by the American National Standards Institute. NFPA provides free online access to its codes and standards. As part of NFPA mission to eliminate death, injury, property and economic loss from fire, electrical and other hazards, NFPA develops easy-to-use educational programs, tools, and resources for all ages and audiences. We will discuss more on Fire Services Act 1988, Act 341. The objective is to ensure Fire and Rescue Department of Malaysia is able to function efficiently and effectively to protect human and properties from fire risk. Other than that, it is to provide full power to fire officer. The Act also provide welfare needs to fire officer and provide protection to fire officer. Sections contained in the Act are preliminary, administration, abatement of fire hazard, water and fire hydrants, fire certificates, enforcement, inquiries into fires, welfare fund and miscellaneous. The duties of Fire Services Department are: first, the taking of lawful measures for extinguishing, fighting, preventing, and controlling fires, protecting life and property in the event of a fire, securing the provision, maintenance, and proper regulation of fire escapes, and securing the provision of adequate means of exit in the event of fire from all designated premises. Other than that, Fire Services Department is responsible in the making of investigations into the cause, origin, and circumstances of fires, and performing humanitarian services, including the protection of life and property in any calamity. Uniform Building Bylaws, which was enforced on 1984, is a building code which provides the minimum requirements for the control and construction of street, drainage and building in local authorities areas. There are 9 parts to the building code: preliminary, submission of plans for approval, space, light and ventilation, temporary works, structural requirements, constructional requirements, fire requirement, fire alarms, fire detection, fire extinguishment and firefighting access and miscellaneous. This regulation was amended on 2012, whereby Malaysian standards have been adopted. It highlights on evacuation, passive containment, active intervention and access for firefighting and rescue. One of the relevant guidelines is Guidelines on Storage of Hazardous Chemicals, a guide for safe warehousing of packaged hazardous chemicals. The contents are hazard identification and communication, chemicals hazards, siting and design of storage area, warehouse management and emergencies. These guidelines set out practical measures on the design, construction, operation and maintenance of storage areas and buildings used for storing packaged hazardous chemicals when they are contained in packages such as drums, gas cylinders, bottles, boxes, intermediate bulk containers and sacks. These measures are designed to protect people at work, and others who may be affected by the storage of packaged hazardous chemicals. Occupational Safety and Health, Classification, Labeling, and Safety Data Sheet of Hazardous Chemicals Regulations 2013 or Class 2013. The regulation is an amendment from Classification, Packaging, and Labeling Regulations 1997. The regulations concentrate on classification, packaging, labeling, safety data sheet, and inventory of hazardous chemicals. These regulations concentrate on duty of suppliers of the chemical. There are 5 schedules under this regulation. First schedules is regarding to hazard classification, hazard pictogram, signal word, and hazard statement. Second schedules highlight on hazard pictogram. Third schedules list down combined hazard statement. Fourth schedules is for dimension of label. Fifth schedules list down all cutoff value of concentration. Control of Industrial Major Accident Hazards Regulations 1984, or SIMA, highlight on control measure and preventing major accident hazards. These regulations should apply to all industrial activities, except a nuclear installation, an installation under the armed forces, a vehicle or vessel transporting hazardous substances to, or from the site of an industrial activity, and an industrial activity in which there is involved, or likely to be involved a quantity of hazardous substance, or a category or categories of substances, which are equal or less than 10% of the threshold quantity of the hazardous substances. The regulation concentrate on identification and notification of an industrial activity, demonstration of safe operation for non-major hazard installation, report on industrial activity and preparation of emergency plan for major hazard installation, and notification of major accident. I think that's all for this topic. Thank you.